All right, there is so much going on all over the world, and of course, we just saw a crazy speech at the U.S. Capitol from Netanyahu. If you did not witness that speech, a lot of folks are saying that it was pretty grandiose. It had, of course, soldiers with him. He made several points about where they were from and how the fighting force is. I want to point out one thing that Dex and I were talking about right before the show is that speech was a very powerful speech. Whether you like or hate the guy, it was a powerful speech. And why is it being done right now? Especially with a war that is right at the cusp between Israel and Iran. Now, at the same time, there was actual protesters outside and inside, and police ended up deploying pepper spray amid protests against Netanyahu's speech at the U.S. Capitol. Of course, police deployed pepper spray at demonstrators against Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu address to Congress swelled in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday. Thousands of protesters descended on the nation's capital, chanting "Free, Free, Palestine," and some tried to block streets ahead of Netanyahu's speech, the AP reported. Police wearing gas masks blocked the crowd, which was calling for an end to the conflict in the Strip that has taken the lives of more than 39,000 Palestinians from getting closer to the Capitol. The U.S. Capitol Police said on social media that pepper spray was being deployed because some members of the crowd had started to become violent. Would you look at that? And this is, again, right near the U.S. Capitol. With this whole speech, if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. Tell us what you think for yourself. It was, a lot of people said that it was inspirational. I know that this is a subject that everybody is absolutely torn on, but when you see that media is essentially altering people's thoughts, and half of the people that are protesting on both sides don't even actually know the subject they're protesting about, you'll ask them, "Why are you here?" They're like, "Well, I'm here because they're bad, and I'm because she told me to." I mean, it's crazy how many people on so many different subjects in the last 2 years have protested or gone out, and when they're asked about what they're doing, they don't actually know. They go, everybody else is doing it. But as far as this goes, it shows us that something is about to go down. They have all of these kind of things happening. And a great comment by Nevitz right before the show says, "I have a feeling that Israel is going to go into Iran." To the bunker man, stock market was jittery today. Well, with that speech and with everything else, I actually think you're right, Nevitz. I think something is about to pop. So we're going to talk about that. And today is going to be a short show. So stick around. You don't want to miss a moment. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Today, remember, you can find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document over at marfooglenews.com. Just look for today's thumbnail. Click on that, and you will get a full source list for the show. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So as far as the speech goes with Netanyahu, did you not think the same thing? Like that this was it was almost, some said it looked like a production, like that he really had this very, very well put together speech put together with multiple people stating it was definitely there to garner support, or at least to put a seed in people's head. People are now have a positive thought. Last thing, right before what? Is there an announcement coming?
I don't know if it's because some of the people on and part of our Congress weren't there because they wanted to, in effect, sort of protest by not showing up. But there were certainly people on both sides of the aisle there to support him, because there are people on both sides of the aisle that support Israel. It was interesting, though, if you just sat back and just sort of listened to it and listened to the thunderous applause, listen to the roar, and listen to the fact that, like, every 2 seconds it was let's clap. Every 2 seconds it was let's clap. It was very akin to if you had a presidential address at Congress and everybody was just, into it. And I sort of took that aback, thinking, wow, this felt like it was a lot of energy. And then the things he had to say were interesting too. It was in like his rolling out and talking about a handful of the different military soldiers that he had brought with him that had been at different events or different.
Tell him about the gentleman who ran.
Yeah, he had. So he rolled out 3 soldiers he brought with him. One was, I think, of a regular Israeli or of Israeli descent. 2 of them had immigrated, or one of them may have immigrated, but they were of different faiths. So he had like a Muslim, Jewish faith, and I don't remember what the other one was. And then one guy, and 2 of them I believe were African descent. And but one of the guys, he said, yeah, he heard about the event back in October, and he put on his camos and grabbed his rifle, and he doesn't own a car. So what did he do? He ran. He literally ran 8 miles on foot to get to the front lines and then start taking out bad guys and saving people. And then he said there was a 4th guy there that he just realized was there, because I guess he came on his own. He didn't bring him as part of the plan. And the 4th guy, it was also somebody that was in the IDF who was injured and had lost a leg. And he called him out, and he was standing up, holding his crutch to the sky, just cheering and jeering, and everybody was just going nuts for him. So yeah, again, it felt very presidential-like, even though I know he is a prime minister of his country, but it was obviously welcomed in our Congress.
Yeah, and that's the thing with that whole thing publicized. It really, I guess, when you see what is happening all over the world and all of the humongous protests against it, it's a bit of surprise to see how folks are actually reacting in the Congress. Again, a lot of people have been debating lately, especially people that don't know about either side of it, and they're just looking at it from the outside and going, well, I don't know anything about either side, but one thing I do see is that people are kind of jumping on a bandwagon either way without actually knowing anything. They are, obviously, when something is all over social media, people are going to start believing. I mean, I see repetitive things put on both sides of the aisle about each side. I see the same playbook being played by the same side, and you know that there's propaganda mixed in there, because you have one side saying that these people are so horrible, and then this other side going, these people are so horrible. At the end of the day, as preppers, we're just looking out and going, okay, what is going to happen next? We don't know. Just pretend we don't know who is right. We pretend we don't have a side. Let's look at what is the result of this going to be. In fact, there is a space right now, and that's AJ basically talking about, says that he gets the royal treatment as at the same time that there is an attempted assault or attempted takeout of the Iranian president. So you could see how the messaging or the vision of that is. He's basically getting cheers and jeers in the Congress. Meanwhile, the former president, the current one already got taken out. The former president of Iran had his car sabotaged supposedly and almost perished. So while he's spinning out, Netanyahu's in Congress getting cheers and jeers, and this whole inspirational, somebody said it was a Braveheart speech type thing. So what the heck is actually going on here? Now, crazy tweet here. Let me see if, this is folks ended up somehow getting in and putting maggots and crickets in the place. So you can see the worms basically crawling around. These are maggots and crickets that were released. Gosh. So somebody was able to do this prior or during, or there were a worker or something. I don't know what the backstory is of how they did this, but this was inside the hotel. So obviously not everybody's too happy about him in general. And then Iran's useful idiots. Netanyahu slams anti-protesters in the U.S. speech. He said protesters opposed to the devastating conflict in the Strip, which, by the way, you see that even if they are covering something, trying to be apolitical, they're going to put a slant on it. And it seems like most media is actually agreeing with one side or the other, and really a lot of it with one side. But Iran's useful idiots, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a speech to the U.S. Congress Wednesday, claiming that Iran is funding the demonstrations. I have a message for these protesters. When the tyrants of Iran who hang guys from cranes and women for not covering their hair are praising, promoting, and funding you, you have officially become their useful idiots. That was, of course, his comments, not mine. But one thing is to say, there's some good points in another interview a couple weeks ago. People were making points that essentially there are groups supporting the same people that would essentially quarter them. So it's just so wacky where we are right now in the world. Dex, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and he's not the only one to report this, although maybe many will suggest it came from Israel. But there have been numerous reports over the last 2 weeks of the fact that a lot of the protesting that we see here, even in America and in other locations, is actually being paid for by and supported by money coming out of Tehran, and that they're literally writing checks or bringing checks or money in, so to speak, to organize this type of stuff. So to some extent, if that information that's been reported numerous times in the news is true, then what he's saying here with all of the extra flair is actually, on par with what's been reported.
So right now, looking at the next 4 months, I already believe that besides this going on, besides all of this, this has a piece in a bigger puzzle. Iran and Israel, of course, that is heating up, and it's only going south right now. You, of course, have Russia and Ukraine. You have China and Taiwan. You have China and the Philippines, China and Japan. You have Venezuela and Guyana. Of course, you have what's going on in Cuba is very suspicious. There's 200,000 Russian tourists. And, of course, you have countless interactions between Russian Navy, Chinese Navy, U.S. Navy. Some of the biggest drills in history are going on right now. All of this is happening, and some are saying, it's going to be all a nothing burger. At the very least, we're going to see manipulation in the next 4 months. At the very least, we are going to see an upset. If, say, Kamala takes office, if T-Man takes office, no matter what, we're going to see an upset. It depends on, I could see if Kamala does, they're already calling on some certain sides to basically become unhinged if Donald does not take the place. The very same is being said on the other side. So what is about to happen? And that's very local. That's here in the United States. If you're watching from Australia or Canada like Nevitz, again, this is going to be a global thing, because I don't believe we might not even get there. Because right now, if you look at the next logical steps of everything that's been going on, right now, they've already signed all the documents to basically put this into its final stage. All of the allies have signed their agreements. They're actually planning on how to move troops around, how to move everything against the front lines. And then you have Russia, Iran, you have Cuba, you have Venezuela, you have all of these countries and China all working out their physical plans for war. They're drilling. They're actually doing live fire drills right now as we speak. So right now, this is when you have a warning. Many people are going to kind of go on this roller coaster of panicking every week when they say to be scared, and then they go calm when everything is fine. But that's not us. Our community needs to be prepping 24/7, at least every week. You need to be adding just a little bit to your stockade. So I hope that people are getting prepped for what is actually coming our way. Again, suggestion, go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. In fact, I was actually going to tell you guys about EMP Shield, but more importantly, at this point, I hope that you guys go check out marfooglenews.com/prep, because you can get huge discounts, $200 off on a 3-month supply. Again, that's freeze-dried food that will last 25 years. So go check it out, marfooglenews.com/prep. It's going to keep most of its flavor and most of its nutrients until 2053. So again, it's very easy to store. It's very small in space, and it's going to have exactly what you need for a certain amount of time. You can get a 72-hour kit, a 1-month kit, a 3-month kit. The more that you end up getting, just like Costco, you're going to get a discount on bulk. $200 off is a giant discount with our link. Again, you don't need a code for that one. Just type in that link and you'll get that. But either way, it's good for storms. It's good for earthquakes, for tornadoes, for any kind of event. Highly doubt it would be good for Yellowstone, because if you're anywhere near Yellowstone, then you're just goners. But again, it's good for any other disaster, including the SHTF that we all hope doesn't happen. Dex, do you want to talk about this video with the flag being incinerated?
Yeah, so this is, and Adam, I gave you a link for when we're done with this topic, or when we're done with the Netanyahu topic. It's in up next. What's going on here, guys, is with all the protesting, not just the tear gas that they talked about earlier, or the pepper spray. We're seeing that they've gone into the park, and I think we showed you on the last show some of the graffiti that was done. But here in front of Union Station, my understanding is they actually took the flag down. I don't know if this is the one they took down, but they took it down and then started to do what we see them do all too often with protests like this, which is, light it up, and that carried on. So just some of the events that are happening, the heat that is going on both sides right here in the nations, in our nation, but in our capital, with the fact that, Netanyahu is here. But it wasn't just that he was here, because this stuff's been going on for many months. The conflict, or the division, I should say, between the sides of the people that want to support one side or the other. And I almost feel like even in some cases it's even being flamed on both sides, or fanning the flames on both sides to escalate. And that's it's a very dangerous thing. The more we divide people in the country, the more dangerous things get. And nothing wrong with protesting, nothing wrong with people having different opinions. But when they get to the point of, starting to do violent things like they talked about with why they needed to deploy pepper spray, that's where it crosses the line.
And this isn't just a civil. Everybody's talking about a civil conflict here in the U.S. This isn't just here. This is global. In France, in Brazil, you're seeing it all over the world. The this side versus that side dichotomy playing out all over the world. Everywhere you go, Canada is going through the exact same thing, and some say it's even worse up where you guys are at. As far as down in Mexico, you have a different dichotomy happening. You have South America. Several places in South America are going through the same thing. It's the same playbook being played all over the world. And you go back to who really runs all of the media of the world. You've got a small handful of people that control all of the social media and MSM that is essentially available everywhere. Even if they're speaking different languages, they're most likely a wing or a partner company of somebody up at the very, 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 very top. So it's just so crazy, the same messaging. We've seen it here in the United States, where all of the different news stations were saying the exact same message. Well, imagine that, only that video in 160 different languages. That is also happening. So be prepared. What we feel, the world feels. It doesn't matter where you are right now, you are most likely feeling the same thing. It's kind of like how we all felt during CV. It was like I could watch a streamer from Germany and they were going through the same thing I was. They were, stuck in their house. You could see somebody in China or somebody in Poland or anywhere, and they were going through the same thing we are. Since then, everything has been global. Everything has been happening to us all on the same page. So this is not a surprise. Not to mention, we've covered just in the last 6 months, just replace whatever country, you've seen those burnt in almost every country. It's really getting really scary. And then, Dex, you added this just in. So let's talk about this OSENT Defender. What is this? Then they've announced earlier flight.
Yeah, well, no, what's going on? This is on one hand, you would just brush this off because we talk all the time about how, NORAD has tracked, a strategic airplane from Russia getting close to, any part of our areas, like the Alaska Air Defense Zone. Kind of a big deal. Okay, well, we've talked about that so many times, it just happens all the time. This time they did it in concert with China. So the planes were together, both Russia and China, flying through and close to Alaska. So that's the I guess the unique difference about this. Otherwise, you could have just said, yeah, we've heard this a half a dozen times. We call it every time it happens, but it's not that big of a deal. But I don't think that I recall, and Adam, I don't know if you can remember,
No.
Have we heard them working in cooperation?
No, we've seen, well, in fact, it's rare for China to do this. Russia has gone by Alaska several times. China has with smaller planes, but now they have, of course, two Tu-95 Bear strategic bombers, which are pictured, with as well as two H-6 Badger strategic bombers by the Chinese Air Force. So you have, this is just two of the four. These are two Russian bombers, but then you had two Chinese bombers also in or near the ADIZ. Did they say it went in the ADIZ? So the Alaska Air Defense Identification Zone. So that's getting weird. Okay, we've covered 1 million where there's specifically even two. It's always two, and they always do their loop and they flex their muscles. I don't think I've ever seen this with China. I don't think 4 bombers like this and China and Russia together. I think you're right. I don't think we've ever covered that since 2017. So that is good catch. Is that a Fugel fan member? Do we owe credit to somebody?
No, it was a personal friend of mine that sent it to me.
So again, very, very unnerving. And then, like chickens for KFC, Netanyahu rips ceasefire activists in congressional speech as silently protests. Dex, you want to go over this one?
Yeah, this is one of the big, this got a lot of play in social, but it kind of goes to the point you made earlier, Adam, about how there are plenty of people that are protesting that don't even realize who they're supporting wouldn't support them. And he went on to say, I have a message for these protesters. I think we actually read that one, the part about what they do with people from cranes and the women who don't cover themselves. But then he said some of these protesters hold up signs proclaiming a certain group for the strip, so to speak. And that certain group is one of the groups that would be taken out. He goes, it might as well be holding up a sign saying chickens for KFC. So, it got a lot of publicity out of that because it was, one of those zingers, I guess you could say. And it's also edgy too, because it kind of goes against some of the people that are protesting. And so anyway, that's what he said. That's what's out there.
He's saying what we've said for a long time. By the way, this has been my view. So, and he said, when they chant from river to the sea, but many don't have a clue of what river and what sea they're talking about. I did not say what I said earlier because of this. This is what I've said for a long time, and everybody has. Everybody's been talking about this because there are plenty of man on the street interviews where they say, oh, why is this? And any time that not only the United States, Canada, Australia, Europe, when people go man on the street and they ask people questions about their actual views, I would say 95% of people are doing it based on other people's opinions. They have attached themselves to somebody they believe sounds smart, or that they like, or they, for some reason, there's some jive there. They haven't met him in person. They see him on TV or they see him somewhere and they go, yeah, that makes sense. It's just like why you'll meet somebody at a party and right away you go, man, we just click. Well, they're doing that with somebody on TV that has an opinion that is well spoken, and they just assume that. We know this happens because basically what you see, and I've seen this in my own family and I've talked about this, where there was a view about, there was a specific argument going on with my family about the author of Harry Potter. What is it? Gosh, J.L. Tolkien? J.K. Rowling. And they were talking about it. Well, my family member ended up pasting in, says, oh, I believe she's dangerous and she shouldn't be able to speak and this and that. This was actually somebody in my family that said she shouldn't be allowed a platform, all this stuff. And then pasted in a thing, and one of my other family members was torn up about it because it's a close family member, and they're like, I can't believe you think this way. I took exactly what they had sent, and I had copied and pasted into Google, and it was copy and pasted straight from an op-ed. So it's like people are taking op-eds and they're just pasting it into their view. When if you question them on any part of it, take a sentence out and go, wait, why do you believe this? Heck, I mean, you've seen the videos saying, oh, he's a chauvinist. What is a chauvinist? They don't know. And that's really the scary part. It's not the views that they hold. It's the views they hold, and they don't know why they hold them. People should be educated on the views they have, unless it's something really, really simple and moral, like, hey, thou shalt not kill, right? That everybody they know why they believe that, right? But if it's something complicated like politics, it used to be that most people would either stay out of it, or if they were into it, they were into it. Now everybody just sees snippets and clippets and little highlights on the internet, and they think that they know about it. I never claimed to know everything about it, but I have covered, in general, the news every single day since 2017, so I have a pretty good idea, but I still don't think I'm an expert. I'm no more an expert than any of you guys. And also, if you question me on some of my thoughts, that's a good thing. When I get questioned on something and I don't know, that's when I go and look. That's when I find it. And sometimes when I find it, it changes my overall view of things. Just with that video of the Massey thing, I saw one camera and I did exactly what I have said people shouldn't do. I was a hypocrite for about 10 minutes. I think it was before I even finished the tweet, because I said, wait. In the first part of it, I go, this person belongs in prison. By the second part, I go, wait, we need to see context. We need to see the rest of the video. We also need to see the aftermath. We need to see where this thing was, if it was even close. We need to see the records of this guy. Does this woman have priors? Has she been in jail for murder? This kind of thing. And again, of course, when you actually do find out all that stuff, you continue to think the same way, or you're pretty close to thinking the same way. But with those kind of things, we can't jump the gun. We judge things so quickly. We are following other people's examples. We're basically cutting and pasting everybody else's views. We can't do that right now. Right now, it's really important that you step back and understand there's even a bigger picture, that these small arguments are actually distracting us from the people at the very top, are basically manipulating us to be angry, mad, divided, pissed off. You can see it in all of the algorithms. They're pushing certain types of videos that pit this person versus that person, young versus old, this country versus that country. Meanwhile, they are interjecting and basically saying within a couple years, everything's going to change. You're not going to use cash at the store. You're not going to be able to travel. You're not going to be able to eat meat more than 8 ounces a month. You're not going to be able to travel on the plane unless you're Taylor Swift. Then you have a private jet. You can fly whatever, because you can have a carbon footprint if you're a celebrity. But in the future, things are going to change very, very fast. And if they are going to change, that means something has to break first. They're about to tear the whole house down, and they're going to build it up again. And I think when it's built back up, we're going to have a different owner. So be careful, people. And again, you can spend all day arguing with people about you're wrong or you're an idiot because you believe this. Or we could start paying attention right above what we're mad about. It's usually those things that are the scariest. All right, and then Russian army says that they took 50 Western instructors out in missile attack. This is a huge deal if this is true. Is this going to be covered up? Giant. We've talked about this since day one, since the rumors of instructors were in different places. Dex, if this is true, and they don't cover it up, this is huge.
Yeah, nobody's talking about it. So this is sort of one of those, and look at where it's coming from. It's coming from Russian media. So you have to sort of, again, take it with a grain of salt, just like we do our own, because we should take our own side with a big grain of salt. But on both sides, we have to do it. But at the same time, this is one of those things that they've talked about and they've said they've done before. But we know that there's been this ongoing push, whether it be from France, Germany, Poland, and even the U.S. to send in resources, let's call them that. And they don't like to use the word troops, but they end up calling them instructors because they come in and teach them how to do things, but they are technically military. And they're suggesting here that one of the strikes they hit a specific region in the Kharkiv region, the capital city, and the result of the strike, about 50 foreign instructors were taken out, according to the source. Now, again, only coming from one side. I don't know that we would actually hear the West admit this. This is not something you're going to hear France, Germany, or the U.S. get all up in arms and upset about. They're going to keep it undercover because it's not supposed to be happening. It's not supposed to be there. And this type of event would not even bode well for supporting the conflict. So I think you have to kind of think of it through that lens. I'm not saying that what we're reporting here or what we're regurgitating to you from Russia is true, but it's what they're saying. And if it is, it's a big deal.
That's an act of war, and they're even saying it out loud. You would think just them saying it, the U.S., why aren't reporters saying, will you respond to this? Did they just take out 50 trainers, which are essentially soldiers, right? This is going to happen, and by the time any of the folks that agree with me get any kind of vindication, there's not going to be a place to share that vindication. There's not going to be a comment section to be like, oh my gosh, you guys were right. Because I don't think you'll be able to access it. But just my opinion. Meba007 says, I find it odd that most haven't seen any political ads. Almost like they don't plan on having the event in the first place. Shout out to the mods. Well, on JB's side, after the attempt, they did pull ads. I haven't seen one either. But I didn't see one before that. I don't think I did. So they did say they pulled ads because the timing of it after the attempt on T-Man, they said that it would look really bad at that point for a couple days at least. They were like, we've got to be sympathetic. Like, this was a really big deal. I guarantee it's going to take a couple more days and they're going to be like, now we're going to trash them again. They don't care anymore. But the same goes, but that's the thing. I have seen ads on T-Man's side, but most of T-Man's side is just T-Man. I don't know. There actually has been negative JB ones, but now JB's out. So now you're going to see ones about Kamala. Kamala, that's a whole different story in the first place. Now they're showing her in different polls as equal. I don't know which poll that was I saw. Maybe it was fake. I don't see how she could be all of a sudden equal or above T-Man or something. Dex, have you seen those?
Yeah, I saw that. And I think what you have to do on that poll is actually look at the details. And you see that they sampled the left side much greater than the other sides and the independent side. So it's almost like they skewed the data intentionally. And so they have methodologies for that, but anyway.
Well, that's like asking my audience.
And so, yeah, they have methodologies for that, but anyway.
Well, that's like asking my audience,
and so
that's like asking our audience that, who are you going to vote for? A majority of people here are on the right side, but we do have people from both sides, and I sure hope that we can get more. Like, we should have people from all sides, and it should be like 15 years ago where you could talk to each other about, hey, I picked this person because of this, and I picked that person because of this. But now I think it's weird because those polls are weird because a lot of people on both sides really just don't. The popular game's not there for her. So the fact that they're saying that, I mean, they really just basically want her because it's the lesser of two evils. That's what you hear time and time again. They just don't want T-Man in, and they'll go with anybody. They could have put anybody up there. They could have put Taylor Swift up there, and they would have been cheering her on. Go ahead.
Well, and Adam, the other reason I think we're not seeing a lot on the ad space at this moment, like as in the last few days, is because there was the change. Even before the change, there was the lead up to everybody thinking it was going to happen. So they're not even sure if it's wise to spend money, trying to, even on T-Man's side, to try to compare him to the current prez if he may not even be there. So if you hold back and don't do that, and now it's even questionable who's really the one, because they're still going to have to wait till the DNC for official confirmation on who's the official candidate. But even now, they're both having to scramble to create new ads and create new positions against these their opponents, so to speak. So you're going to have this lull.
Gavin is a part of it. It has to be. Either he is VP or he's the prez. Something has to change last minute or something. He's at very least going to be the VP choice. I guarantee it. But we'll see. I might eat my foot.
They're screaming Mark Kelly now.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like in the number 2 spot. Number 1 or number 2 spot.
I think that's because they want to surprise people. Like they're trying to make it look like Gavin hasn't been the choice the whole time. I don't know. He's already met with G. He's already he's already been paraded around. He went with JB on his tours. It's almost like, and by the way, when he was traveling with the president, don't you think there's a chance that he was getting filled in and basically prepped to, like, you have to get updates. And even when you take over office, like the second you win, there's months where they start updating you on all of the stuff for when you start in January. Remember, like when T-Man got put in, from November to January, they were updating him on everything. They were telling him all of this stuff. He got clearance and he found out all this stuff. Every president does, especially on their first term. They are basically, they get up to speed on what's been going on. And I'm sure that could you imagine Dex winning president of the United States and then all of a sudden finding out so much stuff that just has always been top secret? Gosh, wouldn't that be amazing?
It would be. And, I was about to say this, and I just noticed Jackie Perez in chat said the same thing. They can't be from the same state. So that does create a problem. Because you can't have both from the same state. But what they do in the past, I think Reagan has done this or someone else has done this before, is they will change their homestead at the last minute. But this can create a problem, like for Gavin. It may be easier for Kamala to change her homestead and say, I don't live in California anymore. I live and pick another state, or even D.C. for that matter, she could say. And then it would work. But it might be difficult to be a sitting governor and actually say, well, you know what, I'm going to move to Nevada next month so that I can, run for president without stepping down.
Well, we'll see what happens. I think that some magical thing is going to happen. Now, me, Puppet 007, Nevitz, thank you for being the top supporter tonight. I appreciate you. Again, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. We actually weren't going to do this one, but again, I do think that this is a really good recommendation because this could save your butt. It could mean the difference between you getting home or, again, to your family or getting out to bug out. This protects your cars and all of your motor vehicles, RVs, home, generators, even your ham radio against an EMP strike. Not only a EMP strike, multiple EMP strikes, or a Carrington level event from the sun. So either way, you are protected. Not to mention, if you get the home version, it protects you against lightning strikes. This can actually ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car. That way you can keep driving and get home. If you work far from work, this is a really smart thing. If you have a plan to get out, to leave the city, then again, I would highly recommend you put this on there. Again, it also has it for motorcycles. They have a small micro version that's literally a quarter of the size, fits in the palm of your hand. That one can go in super small areas. So go check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. Also go check out marfooglenews.com/friends. You have all of our great mods there, and may have a few more there soon. So go check out that site, and of course go support all of our wonderful mods. Thank you, Dex. Thank you for your service tonight. And again, make sure to go check out the video we just did over on Marfoogle News. That video is short and shareable. It talks about what FBI Director Christopher Wray just said. It talks about the attempt on the former president of Iran. So go check that out. All you have to do is click here. Thank you, guys. We'll see you over on the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Big thank you to